Okay, so this is the benevolence request list. Again, this is just kind of our demo server. This is the one request that is out there. So you can add requests here, or you can use a front-facing form for someone else to request benevolence, or you can set it on like a deacon page or like inside of where it's controlled access so that only certain people can request benevolence on behalf of other people. So these particular modules will work both inside Arena like this or outside. The way that we have this configured right now, you basically say, I'm going to put in a new benevolence request. All of these statuses are modifiable. There's two ways that we store people for benevolence. There's just first name, last name without tying it to a person, but then there's also tying it to a person. We understand that there are oftentimes people who are asking for benevolence who don't go to your church. You don't want them in your database, but you still want to keep track of the fact that you offered some kind of benevolent something to them. So we're just going to go ahead and create a benevolent request for Barney Rubble. We're just going to leave them as unknown, no home phone, no cell phone, no work. We're going to pretend that Barney walked in off the street. This particular installation doesn't have campuses in it. The installation meaning our demo server. Request type. I don't have any request types configured, so I can certainly go show you what that would be. This would be like the government ID if you're asking to see those before you offer that benevolence. The request date is pre-populated. You can actually have a module setting that will warn until, so this warn just means it's going to highlight it as a recent user of benevolence. So it can pre-populate the date based on a module setting or allow you to come in here and set that date. So December 15th. You can assign it to a pastor, which again, that isn't configured either. So we're going to definitely have to jump into the module settings. You can track email. You don't have to. And we're just going to say needs money for food and gas. He's asking for $50. And you can add supporting files. So you can upload documents, PDFs, whatever else. And then we can just hit save. If you just hit save, it's just going to come right back to the list. And you can see here, this is just a first name, last name, not an actual person. So you can see how it handles that differently, whereas Micah Baylor is actually in the database. And then you can then filter these by these various request statuses, campuses, by the result, meaning that once we have done a result, you can do that. There's also this pastor thing, but we need to go do a little bit of configuration so that we have a bit more going on in here. So there is a ministry tag that can be linked up for the pastors. When we put one in here, it's going to automatically create a tag called Benevolence Pastors. You don't have to use this one if you don't want to. You can obviously use the module setting to redirect to a different tag, but for ease of configuration, I'm just going to go throw a couple people in here. All of our staff.
If I can ask really quick,
yeah.
My connection dropped, so I just want to clarify. When you talked about the front end, that's when I lost you for a second. When you say it's connected to a form, is that a custom form or is that a benevolence specific form?
Yeah, so that's where we get into some really interesting things. You can use a custom form that will then kick off an assignment, and the assignment can create the benevolence request based on the data in the form. So yes, you can use custom forms. You can also just put that detail form out on the portal. Probably better to use the custom form because you have a lot more control over how that's going to work and look and feel. But so kind of both.
Okay.
So we're going to come back in here. We're actually going to go edit this particular request, and that's done by clicking on the date. And now we can actually assign it to a pastor because we have people in there. And you basically come in and interact with these benevolence requests as a well, the pastor could come in and interact with them. And then you can also filter. So you could say, we want to see who's assigned to Matt, and that's going to restrict it down. It does the same kind of filtering thing that all of Arena does, puts it up in the filter bar, and you're able to go from here. So I'm going to jump into the module settings for this particular one, and then we'll jump into the detail. The reason I'm going to jump in here is because this actually very tightly integrates with assignments, so that if a pastor is assigned, you can actually create an assignment that will then notify that pastor or the person who needs to take the next action with that particular benevolence request that they have a benevolence request that was assigned to them. So it's probably at this point, just in my opinion, the best thing to just run through these module settings and talk about how they are going to interact. So this is that benevolence pastors tag. So you can set it to be whomever you want. In this particular case, it's defaulting because we created that when we installed the benevolence package. So it's going to default to that. And the way we do that is some GUID matching on the back end. And so if it's not set, it's going to default to that benevolence pastors. We can enable or disable campuses. Since we don't have campuses, we're just going to disable that here. So you can have specific benevolence request types, and those are set up in the lookups. And let's pop over there real quick so we can take a look at that. So here's your benevolence request result statuses, your benevolence request statuses, and your benevolence request type. So you obviously are going to want to probably pre-fill these. Gift cards are often a way that churches will choose to how they'll help. I'm losing my words, but that's how they'll provide that benevolent help. Perhaps a gas card. I guess some will still handle actual cash. So we got a couple of different request types there. We're going to pop back over here and we're going to put a couple of request results. And these are actually pre-populated with approved, denied, completed, and dispersed. These are ways that you can notify a particular pastor. And then you can also secure these down to security roles so that maybe only a specific security role can see the completed or the, the ones that are dispersed, but then you can go from there. And then the other thing is this allowed from. This prevents you from jumping from like, I don't think we've got a approved is allowed from 1038. So you can go from denied to approved. You can go from approved to denied, and you can go from completed to denied. But this is the idea is that maybe you have a status of entered, and you can't go from entered to dispersed without going through approval. And that's what that allowed from could be used for. And then the last one is these benevolence request statuses, and that's pending, approved, and denied. And again, you can configure those for however you would want to. So back onto this one, you'll notice that it did preserve my filter like Arena is supposed to. So it came in with filtered down to me. I'm now looking at everything. So we could come in here to Micah's longstanding request. We can come in here and add a result. And so that result, I need to run a refresh cache. Okay. Why do we still not have types? I wonder if we're on the detail form. I probably need to go set those module settings again. Oh, I love it when we get errors. Oh, view state. That's just stupid. That's it. It's like we added a control to the page and it didn't know what to do about it. Okay, now we actually can see some specific results. I'm going to take away this empty result because I don't need an empty result on this. We're going to actually add a result to this. And this is based on the request. We can then set the date. We'll just set it to today's date. Amount is 0. We're actually going to deny the request. And then we will save it. And that is going to drop us right back out onto here. And then we can see that the request status is still showing pending. It should have gone to, oh, because it's the request status up here, denied. Okay. So now it's denied. And then you can filter by denied. You can filter by, you can actually show how would like the result summary, the specifics of the result and how much money was dispersed so that then you can get a quick report out here. So we talked briefly about assignments. Those are all going to be kicked off from this particular page. So let me run over to here and we're going to go to the edit page details on this one. And we're going to take a quick look at those because as you enter the benevolence request, which is going to be on this particular page, you have the ability to kick off an assignment. So you would build an assignment type specifically for handling these benevolence requests. You can specify the custom field that you want the volunteer's team member ID to go into, so that you can then you can reach back through using all of the tools that we've built for assignments and actions. You can reach back into this benevolence request and make a lot of determinations about the benevolence request and use the assignment processing and actions to make decisions about what you're going to do with it and who you're going to assign it to and all those good things. So assignments are a really important part of how this works. I think that's kind of a pretty decent overview. What questions can I answer?
Yeah, I have one question about assignments. I mean, I can look at all of the assignment stuff, so we don't need to go into all the detail. I'm just curious from an overview, is it possible for the assignment to get set up so where a pastor is interacting with the benevolence request exclusively through the assignment, or would they always have to go back into the benevolence module to interact and approve and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they're going to have to come back to the benevolence module, but you can do some clever things with the notification that comes off the assignment so that the URL directly back to this particular benevolence request is reflected in their email so that they can click directly to this. You'll notice that it's a URL parameter. Yeah. So there's ways to make sure that you drop right back in on this so that you're not having to make them hunt through the list to find the one to click on.
Sure. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how much training I'm going to have to do on all the things. Clicking yes, approved is different than clicking this and then having to go in and approve, changes in here. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Let me take a brief sidebar and I want to go look at the code on this real fast because I think I'm having vague recollections of there being a URL parameter for approval.
Okay.
So
if you have time for that in this, that's great. If not,
yeah, I'm just going to run over and look at the code real fast. I have it open on another screen. The reason why is exactly what you just said, so that you could build a button in the email from the assignment that has the approve already set on it.
Right. So in theory, they get their assignment notification or whatever. It has the details in it and they can just click the approved button or the denied button. Hopefully there's hopefully too. And then we could mark this approved or denied.
Yep. Looking at request. Good. So I see that we've got request handled. We've got a person GUID handled. But nope, we are not looking for anything else. So with your contract, Ashley, that is something we could put in here.
Yeah,
Is you'd probably want it to be set status equals, and then we would just use the lookup IDs for those statuses, so that as soon as it comes in here, it would drop over to that status. Now they would still have to hit save, but it would.
Yeah. But that's still a lot easier than, well,
right.
Theoretically, it's less steps for them to have to remember. So,
right.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions about benevolence before we move on to our next topic? Thank you for joining us for this demo of our benevolence module for Arena. If you have any other questions about this, please reach out to us at kingdomfirstsolutions.com. You can find links to all of our all-access Arena modules there, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.